Okay. Okay, it's 6 o'clock. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is, what's today? The October 26th Charter Review Committee meeting, and we meet from 6 till 8 unless we get our business done earlier or decide we've done all we can do that night. So we will have a roll call. Ms. Rafferty, will you call the roll for us, please?
Yes, ma'am. Member Allen?
Here.
Member Bryan?
Here.
Member Philpitt?
Here.
Alternate Member Brower?
Here.
Alternate Member Ortiz-Morales?
She, I believe, is excused tonight.
Vice Chair Novick?
I just checked my text to see if I had something from him, and I haven't heard from him, so maybe he's just running late, but right now he's not here.
And Chair Northey.
And I'm here. So we will, for voting purposes, unless Mr. Novick comes in, Mr. Brower, you are a voting member tonight, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so can we please rise and say the pledge to the flag? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Approval of minutes. Did you all get a chance to read the minutes, and are they accurate for your approval? I read. Don?
In 6, we've got to find it here, 6B, on the ballot language for the compensation. On the voting, it shows 4 and 2. It should show 3 and 2. It's got Member Brower on there as a voting member.
Okay, where? Oh,
It's
so
on
I'm on the
page
wrong
3.
page. Yeah, I'm on the wrong page. Okay, 6B. Okay.
Where it shows 4, and against
You're
2.
right,
It should
okay.
be 4, 3, and against
Yeah,
2.
yeah, you're right. If we could make it that change, and is there any other corrections noted? You're like our Joey Alexander that we had at the county. Joey's job was to read the minutes, and if she said they were right or if she found them wrong, we said, okay, whatever Joey says. So whatever Don says. If seeing no other comments on the minutes, we will file them as corrected. Okay. So we will go on to old business, and wait a minute. Where's my public participation? I don't see public participation on here, but I don't see anybody here to participate anyway. So.
Public forum, number 5.
Oh, geez, right there, Lord. I'm looking at all these blue things here, and I'm thinking, what the? Okay, there is no public to speak tonight, so we'll move on to item 6 and old business. 6A, discussion and review of proposed ballot language for running at large. The section number is noted, and there is an attachment for Amendment 1, and I'll open the floor for discussion, and I'll go to staff first if there's anything that they want to add on this before we discuss it.
The only thing I'd like to point out specifically is in the actual ballot language. We're using the term elected on a city-wide basis as opposed to the term at large. After much discussion amongst myself and Mr. Fowler, we believe that the term citywide basis is a more common vernacular term that the public will understand, and that not everyone who is not involved in government understands the term at large. So we thought it was a more descriptive term to use.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Skiffalo, is there anything you'd like to add? Okay. Mr. Bryan?
Since we last voted on this, I have been approached by members of the public about it, and I've also been shown different legal jargon on it that makes me wonder how wise this actually is now. One, I was approached to the fact that the Supreme Court itself in 4 or 5 different states has basically claimed that because of the way it was done in as a citywide, and because it diluted the vote of the minorities, they found it unconstitutional. So I wonder how this will hold up, since we have a very large Hispanic and Black community in our city.
They're pretty dispersed throughout the city.
Only Hispanic is. The Blacks, for the most part, are on the outskirts of it and in certain pockets. But the Hispanics are very concentrated in 3, 4, and then in District 1.
Is that the census data that you're referring to?
Huh?
Are you referring to census data?
Yeah.
Okay.
The stuff we got last
The
night.
stuff we just got,
Yeah.
okay.
What I'm wondering is, do we actually really want to put this forward, knowing that there has been legal challenges through the Supreme Court? The only challenge I found in Florida was to the Broward County try when they put it on their ballot back in 1990. The Attorney General advised them to remove it because of what the Supreme Court has said.
Okay.
That's something I didn't know. It was
Yeah.
just brought to my attention.
I have always thought that our minority populations are pretty well dispersed. I certainly know my neighborhood is very ethnically rich. And I'll come to you just a moment, Mr. Philpott, but my response would be, I understand what you're saying, but since we're not the one putting it on the ballot under the Deltona forum, it goes up to the commission, it might give the commission an opportunity to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Philpott?
No, you answered my question. You already answered my question.
Okay, Ms. Allen?
I want to know where those blight projects you're talking about.
Ms. Allen, could you speak into your mic, please?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
You want to know what now?
Where the blights are, you said they're on the outskirts?
Yeah,
I
let me
have
find the
a
page.
neighbor across the street and a neighbor next door to me, and I have a Hispanic across the street. I mean, we're really ethnically rich in our neighborhood.
We got the ethnic population distribution last night from the city when they had a company called WGI come in and do a breakdown of what the census said. The Black community itself has a large disbursement in Deltona, but in each district, they're on the outskirts of each district, not the outskirts of the city itself.
That's interesting.
And it's funny how the pockets go. The Hispanic district, on the other hand, they're concentrated for the most part, here again, for the most part, in 3, 4, and then in 1. And they're in large pockets. Now, it doesn't mean that they're not dispersed throughout the whole city.
Yeah.
I'm just saying there's larger pockets in these areas, and it may be a concern because here again, what the Supreme Court talked about, especially in Texas, was that the Hispanic vote in Texas would be diluted, and it would be very hard for them to get a candidate into office because
Was that at a local level or a statewide level?
that was a local community.
It's a local
yes,
level
all of these have been local
elections.
communities that went
Local
before the
local
state.
elections?
Yeah, there's only been 4
okay.
that have been statewide, and one was Florida.
Okay.
And that was when Florida tried to do a one candidate vote type thing. In other words, you don't have any, it was a bipartisan vote. And that's the only one I saw in the state of Florida, or as a state of Florida, being represented that way. Now, like I say, the Attorney General in Florida has issued 3 different opinions on this. One was chastising Broward back in the 90s for the way they actually put it on their ballot.
Yeah.
That didn't have anything to do with whether it went before the voters or not. It was the language, the way it went on the ballot. And I think, if I remember right, it was 3 different ways you could look at voting for a commission at that time. The other thing that I noticed is, especially in Texas again, they didn't like the fact that it diluted the vote when you had Hispanics on this side of town and the white on the other side of the town. And that's what it really boiled down to in Texas. Now, in California, I noticed from what the Supreme Court said is that because of the way California is made up voter-wise, that it diluted the way the Hispanics were able to vote. Here again, you're talking about large Hispanic communities compared to what we have here, okay? And they're split communities, not as much as we have here. We have less what I call split communities here. As you say, they're more diluted communities. But I wonder if this will give somebody a chance to make a legal issue out of it.
I hadn't thought about it that way, but
I didn't until it was brought to my attention.
I'm still interested in, for me, moving it forward and letting the commission wrestle with that. So
I just figured I better bring it up.
thank you. No, it's a good point. Thank you. Mr. Brower, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I was
Okay.
just agreeing with him. It does make sense.
Okay.
However, I would want to see the census too on it to make sure that, because I'm with you that it seemed, our community seems
Very
diverse
blended.
everywhere you go.
Very
but
blended, yeah.
it's certainly possible that,
Yeah, I don't know what those
given
numbers are.
the actual facts of the numbers, that
Yeah.
if that is the case, then you kind of are opening yourself up for that.
Ms. Seaman, have you experienced this in any of your work? Because I know you've done a lot of this.
I'm familiar with the cases. It has to do with the percentage of the minorities as opposed to the percentage of the general population at large. I would have to study the numbers that came out last night to know whether or not
Yeah.
they would really cause a dilution of the vote
Yeah.
for a minority candidate to be elected.
It hasn't so
And-
far. We have had a very diverse day.
And I know the city commission just began last night talking about the redistricting issue. It seemed like they weren't going to be making a lot of movement on that, but until they've made a final decision on the districts, it would be hard to analyze.
From what we understood last night, there was going to be no movement on it at all.
That's what they said in the workshop, but they actually...
That's what the consensus was last night, that they moved forward not without doing any change at all to the districts.
Yeah, I looked for that workshop. I wanted to view that, and it wasn't up yet to view. So I'm really interested in that because the charter says shall. It doesn't say you get a choice. It says shall make shall redistrict. So, okay. So for this item, then, this is our first item that we talked about that we wanted to send on up as an amendment, and I don't know whether we're still going to do that, but is there a motion to move this amendment forward to the City Commission for consideration?
I'll make a motion to move it. I mean, because the language, as far as I'm sure, is fine the way it is. And if you're willing to allow the commission to, what I call argue it out, that's fine.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Second? Okay. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Ms. Allen?
Oh, this is about the
This is about
citywide.
citywide, yeah.
Yeah, I oppose that.
You oppose that, okay. So, well, can we get Joyce, can we just get a we're going to do roll call votes. I think it's easier probably.
Member Allen?
No.
Member Bryan?
Yeah.
Member Philpott?
Yes.
Alternate Member Brower?
Yes.
And Chair Nordy.
Yes, okay. Thank you all for your good work on that one. So now we're on to Amendment 2, and this was a modification of compensation for mayor and commissioners, and this was changing the compensation for the mayor shall be equivalent to 50% of the salary of the county of Volusia, and the commissioners were 50% of the salary of a county of Volusia council member. And the actual ballot language, shall the City of Deltona Charter be amended to modify the salary of the mayor to be equal to 50% of Volusia County Chair, and the salary of the commissioners to be equal 50% of Volusia County Council members. So I know there was some split decision on this discussion when we had this earlier. So I'll open this up. Is there any discussion or any motion on this one? Okay. The motion can be either to move it forward or to not. So
A motion to move forward.
Motion to move forward by Mr. Brower. Is there a second to that motion?
I second.
Seconded by Mrs. Allen. Is it Mrs. Allen or Miss Allen? How do you like it to be? How you'd like to be addressed?
Oh, I'm good.
Okay. All right. Okay. We have a motion to move this forward for approval and to move this forward to the commission for their review and potentially put it on the ballot. Properly moved in second, and I don't see any other discussion. No tents are up. So seeing that, Ms. Rafferty, will you take a roll call vote, please?
Member Allen?
Yes.
Member Bryan?
No.
Member Philpitt?
No.
Alternate Member Brower?
Yes.
Chair Northey?
Yes. Okay, that one moves forward on a 3-2 vote. Okay. Moving on to Amendment 3. This was modification of composition and qualification for commission members to reside in district and be elected on a citywide basis. Oh, wait a minute. I thought all right, what am I looking at here? That was Amendment 1. Okay, that's,
Filling of vacancies, Amendment 2.
well, it says Amendment 3 on here. I'm going to look on my copy and see, because because that's the same. That's not what was on the agenda. I promised you, because I read the agenda. It was discussion, Amendment 3, maximum time frame in which charter officer can remain in the acting position. But that was item 6C. So I think we have a error here, Joyce, the way I'm looking at this. But go to 6A, 6B. Okay. Did everybody get this? Ms. Rafferty, did everybody get this done the same way I have it? Okay, so 6C here, well, it's the same thing. It's a repeat of Amendment 1.
Yeah, just,
There is an error on the agenda, but the attachment is correct.
This isn't. This attachment is not. The attachment in the agenda item, but what we were given is not. It's the same. Okay, so we'll go off of that then. All right.
I have 3.
Okay, I am looking at
6C.
6C.
My 6C is 3.
My 6C.
For 6C.
My 6C says modification of compensation, Amendment 3, modification of composition and qualifications for commission members to okay.
Yeah, the top of it's wrong.
If you move down, though, it is the topic that you...
The rest of the document is correct.
Oh. You're right.
Yeah, it says
I just,
7.
I got stuck on the,
I'm sorry.
okay, no problem. Okay.
I'll correct that.
So 6C is discussion and review of proposed language for the maximum time frame in which a charter officer can remain in the acting position. So that's what we are talking about. And the title on ballot question would read, addition of language to provide for a maximum term a city manager or city attorney may be appointed as acting. And the language reads, shall the City of Deltona Charter be amended to add language to provide for a maximum term the charter offices of city manager and city attorney may be appointed as acting, and to provide for an additional term for exigent, is that, if I say that word correct, circumstances. So we had a lot of conversation about this one, and I'm opening Mr. Bryan?
I'm like you. Can we explain the word exigent? And let me ask you another question. Is that what's going to be on the ballot?
Yes. That's the proposal, yes. We could use the term
So
extraordinary.
let me ask a question. If I'm having a problem with it,
And I'm having a
and
problem.
she's having a problem with the word,
How
how
about
about the voters are going to have a problem with it?
extraordinary?
Okay,
That would
that's
be
fine.
better, yeah. Could we change it to extraordinary?
Extraordinary works, yes.
Normally, I would say I'm not good with big words, but that's not a big word to me, and it still bothered me.
Understood. Again, we'll use the term extraordinary.
Okay.
Okay, extraordinary is fine. Now, all we're doing tonight is voting on the language of this.
What we're doing tonight is voting on this, whether we want to move this amendment forward to the commission under.
As well as the language that
With
we're
the
looking at.
ballot language as it's written, yes. This would be the language that would appear, if the commission approves it, this would be the ballot language, yes. Yeah. Mr.
Is there a
Filter?
reason we,
Sure.
is there a reason we wouldn't put the actual length in the ballot?
I would say yes, because you want the voters to know how long he's going to be there or not. I mean, that's
Well-
the main reason why we're changing it, is it not?
But I think that is in the, that would be in the language, the enabling language, because it says right there, right above it on D, filling of vacancies, the city commission shall begin the process to fill a vacancy, yada, yada, yada,
Right.
within 90 days. An appointment for acting city manager or city attorney shall not exceed 18 months, which is what we had said,
Right.
but may be extended by this commission for an additional 6 months for, except, what was?
Extraordinary.
That's extraordinary, for extraordinary
Right,
circumstances.
but that's not on the ballot.
No, but the ballot language is made, you can't go over, I think it's 75 words.
But I don't think we've done that. And if I was a voter and I'm just being told, well, are you going to vote yes or no on how long the people can be acting? My first question was, well, how long is that?
Okay.
Yeah, but there's where every ballot question, there is a definition, 75-word definition.
No, I understand that.
So that would be in there
But-
as well.
No, that's
What
not.
the title of the ballot question shall be as follows. That's what the voters are going to see, right?
Yes, that's what the voters see.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So they don't see that part in the top where the 18 months and the 6 months is. That's what the change to the charter would be, but the voter's only going to see that lower portion.
So at the actual ballot box, they won't see the
18 and 6.
18 and 6, okay.
Yeah.
No.
The ballot, if I counted it correctly, it's 41 words. Does the title count with that?
Yes, it does.
Oh, the title counts with that?
Yeah,
Well, then
give
that
me just a
changes
minute, I'll pull
that.
it up. Amendment 3.
15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Yeah, that brings it up to 61, if I count it correctly.
So if it's only 41 words, why couldn't you add that to it?
It's 61, because
Huh?
it's 61.
Yeah, but still, you're only adding, what, 3 words?
What would the words be?
1, 2, 3,
18
4,
months
5,
and
6.
18 months and 6 months, yeah.
You'll be adding 6 words because you have to say for a term of 18 months.
So you're
for a
still
term
not
of
over
6 months.
75 words.
We're still within the time.
Right.
Okay, so we would be able to squeeze that in, Jamie?
Yes.
Okay. Would
If
that,
that's the case, then, yeah,
would
I
that make
agree.
you guys
Put it in
feel
there.
better to put that in there? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So can I get a motion to amend the language?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to amend the language to where it says 18 months and 6 months.
Okay.
And extraordinary.
Yeah, okay.
And I second it.
You seconded by Mr. Philpott. Any other discussion? If not, I don't see any tense up. We'll take a vote on the amended language. This is just the amended language. Okay, Joyce, do you want to call
Member
the roll?
Allen,
Yes.
Member Bryan,
Yes.
Member Philpott,
Yes.
Alternate Member Brower,
Yes.
Chair Northey.
Yes, great. And so now we're back to the original ballot question. Do we, and the motion would be, do we want to approve the ballot language as amended and forward that to the City Commission for consideration? Do we have a motion on that?
What was that now? I'm sorry.
To forward the amended ballot language to the City Commission for consideration for the ballot. We have to approve the amendment And we did the amendment with the reconsideration with the
You're
different
still talking about
language.
6C?
Yeah, still
Yes.
talking about 6C.
Yeah, I'll make motion to move it forward,
Okay.
as long as we have those amendments.
Yes, that was done. We did that. Okay.
second.
And it's been seconded by Mr. Philpott. Is there any discussion? Okay. Can we call the ballot or call the roll?
Member Allen,
Yes.
Member Bryan,
Yes.
Member Philpott,
Yes.
Alternate Member Brower,
Yes.
and Chair Northey.
I vote yay. Okay. Man, you guys are just moving, rocking and rolling here. Okay. Okay, items, so that takes care of the 3 amendments that we will, and Ms. Kefalo, is it the intention, I would hope, well, I really guess the committee needs to weigh in, but I'm thinking we should do everything at one time. If there's something else that comes up in the next couple of meetings, that's fine, but I don't want this to move forward until we're finished this process.
Oh, yeah, everything, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, everything
okay.
goes at once.
Okay, great. Okay, 6D, discussion on research regarding legal staff conflicts, and I believe that is Ms. Seaman that's going to handle that one.
As far as correcting the document, sending it to Joyce. All right. You had some questions last week on the city attorney and city manager's staff and the interaction. The city attorney's contract is a rather simple contract. It is just basically an hourly rate. The Fowler Feeney Law Firm has paralegals and legal assistants on staff, and they are the ones that perform the work for the city attorney. As I understand it, there is at least one city employee that functions, I guess, sort of as a liaison between the city manager's office and the city attorney's. In fact, I've used her as recently as this week as I'm handling the Maverick bus bench litigation, and I needed to know who on the staff I needed to contact for a notice to produce, and she was the one that gave me that information and put me in contact with those people. If there's work beyond that coordination, I think that's between the city attorney and the city manager to handle. I can't explain it any better than that. The law firm does have paralegals and legal assistants, and that's who I'm using for my work.
Okay.
Does that
So let me see if I get this correctly. You're saying we have a legal department that is contracted
Yes,
through the lawyer,
yes.
and then we have a single employee?
I honestly don't know. I think there might be 2. I think there might be somebody that answers the phone, and I do know of a paralegal/contract administrator that I have used for the purposes of.
Now, did you interview any of these people or talk to any of these people?
I talked to the law firm.
Mr. Fowler?
Yes.
Okay. Did he express any concern?
He did not. He did not.
Did you talk with Marcia?
No, I did not, because Mr. Fowler is the principal in Fowler Feeney, and she's an associate.
Okay, well, let me ask it this way.
Okay.
Mr. Fowler being the principal, I know for a fact he's getting ready to go on a very long extended vacation.
Yes. It's one of the reasons why I'm here.
And that will put Marcia, the associate, here. And as far as I know, she's here more often than he is, just from my observations over the last 5.5 years.
Okay.
She also negotiated a fire contract, union contract. She also negotiated, for the most part, the trash contract that we had.
Okay.
So that being said, I would say she probably has more knowledge of any conflict here inside this building. because she works so closely between the manager, the last manager, and the manager before that, or the last acting manager and the manager before that, compared to how many hours he actually puts in here at the city. Now, I'm not dishing Mr. Fowler, don't get me wrong. I have a lot of respect for the man. But when it comes to day-to-day work, that's what I'm more interested in, because that's what this deals with.
Okay.
Is there a conflict, or does anybody know of any conflict between the employees that are in the legal department, the manager, or any of the associates, or Mr. Fowler himself?
Can I ask you, Mr. Bryan, are you, there's, if I understand it, there's 2 employees, we believe there's 2 employees. Ms. Kifalo, one, just one? Okay, and that employee
Answer the phone.
is assigned to, who do they report to?
She reports to the city manager.
To city, directly to the city manager?
City manager.
Okay. Okay, so is there a conflict with that?
That's what I'm asking.
I don't think so.
That's what Mr. Dobbins brought up, though. Remember, at the last meeting, he brought up the fact that he worried about there being a conflict between the city manager and the lawyer because of the employees of the city in the law department or attorney's department, whatever you want to say it.
Well, if you look at the contract, it doesn't call for that employee to be paid out of the Fowler firm. It's not a Fowler employee.
Correct. And that was his concern. Mr. Novich's concern. Nobody, I mean, so that's what I'm asking.
Okay.
Is there any kind of conflict? I mean, I've been doing this for almost 5.5 years now, and I've never heard of any conflict.
I had not either.
I'm struggling with I understand that Marcia's more here on a day-to-day basis. Having been an assistant county attorney and deputy county attorney for 28 years, I understood that I bore the brunt of a lot of the work.
Right, correct,
even though my boss, the county attorney, was the one ultimately in charge.
Correct. I'm not disputing any of that.
And if there has been, I think Skip would have known if Marcia had expressed that to him in some form or fashion.
So Marcia's not, so we're not getting a sense that Marcia's unhappy with the way it's set up.
I've not heard anything. I can continue to look into it if you'd like me to.
I've never heard of anything. I've been here in and out for 5.5 years now. I've lived in the city for 30.
But I will tell you, as an attorney, we're careful to work with the manager's office, but we very often interact directly with multiple employees throughout the organization. We reach out to department heads to get information from them.
Correct, right.
And
I think
that's appropriate.
I think that's the function this employee provides, is sort of like a liaison to be able to reach out and get us headed in the right direction to the right people.
So
I don't see any conflict. I don't think there's a problem. If Mr. Novik has something more specific, I suppose we can discuss it again in the future.
Yeah, I did hear from Chris, and he did say he was sorry for the late notice, under the weather, not going to make it tonight. So we can.
I have one more question. Deputy Assistant Manager, let me ask you a question. You've been here a few weeks now?
10.
Okay, 2 months.
2.5.
I stand corrected.
Still counting.
Time flies when you're having fun. Have you noticed any kind of conflict
No, sir.
at all? None?
No, sir.
Can we consider this closed unless this comes back from
Well, the reason I asked her, because as someone new,
Yeah.
hears about it quicker than people have been here for 100 years.
And yes.
So I figure I better ask.
Okay.
And yes, I would consider it closed.
Okay. So, thank you, Ms. Feeney. Wow. Ms. Seaman, for that information. Okay, so now we'll go to discussion of a research regarding adding a morals clause for charter officers. And Ms. Seaman, if you would give us an update on what you found.
All right, I contacted the Florida League of Cities, and I also did a statewide Muni Code search of city charters and county charters. There is nothing specifically in any charter for morals. There are ethics, discipline, and removal provisions in charters. Most of those mimic the state law that I have provided to you. They're just reiterated in the city charters. Some of them have expanded the ethics issues to include stricter gift, lobbying, and nepotism provisions that are actually in the state law. They've upped that limit a little bit. But I could not find a true morals clause in any city charter, nor could the Florida League of Cities. They said they would continue to search for me, but as of yesterday, they still didn't have anything.
Okay.
I provided you what a sample's moral clause would look like at the bottom. They are very, very broad. One of the things I'd like to point out is that you have a 5 to fire provision in your city charter. So regardless of whether or not you provided a morals clause of some sort, it would still take 5 members of the city commission unless you added an additional provision in your charter that for this specific circumstance, it would take just a majority for dismissal. As you can see from the state law, there are methods to remove from office any appointed public official as well as the elected officials. The misdemeanor provision is a little bit more difficult for removal. They generally suspend until there is a conviction, and then they evaluate the level of the misdemeanor to determine whether or not there should be removal for that reason. The felony provision for removal of municipal officers, whether appointed or elected, has been used relatively frequently in this state. I researched the current governor and back several governors, and it's not just ethics violations, but there have been violations of criminal statutes in this state, third-degree felonies, first-degree felonies, and the governors have felt fairly strongly, going back regardless of the party, of removing those public officials. And again, it doesn't matter whether they're appointed or elected, they remove them for felonies, but misdemeanors, not as often. It's just not. And unless that misdemeanor is related to the public office, such as some sort of public records violation or misappropriation of funds or those types of violations.
Okay. Okay, is there any additional discussion on that? Does anybody want to move forward with anything, or do we want to accept what we've got and...
This is a moral clause for the manager, correct?
Yeah. There's a sample morals clause.
One of the things we did address when talking about this between the lawyers is that you could put in the charter that the city manager and city attorney's contracts could require a morals clause and for a dismissal and forfeiture of pay. But to actually put the moral clause in the charter is...
Have you reviewed acting city manager's contract that we have now?
I did not, no. Did not review the contracts. I was purely looking at charters and ordinances.
Okay.
Because I do know for a fact that he has an ethics clause in his contract. If I remember right, it was, I'll have to look it up now. Been too long.
It's the ICMA.
Yeah, if it's the standard,
ICMA
ICMA contract, then I'm fairly familiar with it.
I can't remember the name of the actual ethics that he put in there now, but it's a 1 through 12 for managers, if I remember right. Could there be a policy made or an ordinance written by the commission if they so feel that something like this is needed?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that is primarily where I found the ethics language, was in various city codes, not in their charters.
So
So if you would like further research on that, I can provide you with a number of city codes throughout the state, big cities, little cities. The smaller cities tend to have more stronger ethics provisions.
why don't you, Jimmy, why don't you bring us back some of that? Because I'm not seeing a lot of interest, I don't think, unless somebody puts their 10 up and tells me differently, that they would like to add this as an amendment. But we do have a list, and I'm curious now, Ms. Kefalo, if Marcia was keeping that list. Do you have you have it? Great. So, because we're going to make some recommendations that are not charter specifically related, but things that they could...
Management recommendations.
Yeah, thank you, management recommendations. So maybe that's where this one will go. How's everybody feel about that? And then it gives it to the commission. Are we good?
I'm not seeing the moral clause.
It's at the very, very bottom.
It's on the bottom of your
Start at the bottom of the second page.
second page, below the highlighted. Did you get?
ICMA.
Yes. Yeah,
what I was trying to figure out.
I'm about to pull it up for you, the ICMA contract.
It took me long enough to find it on my pages.
Yeah.
Yes, it's 1 through 12, actually, that he has in his contract.
Okay.
6E.
6 is my own. Where do you have 6E? It's my 6E there.
The material is complicated.
But regardless, it would still take a vote of 5 because that's what the city charter requires.
Oh, absolutely. Right, yeah.
Right.
To remove, yes.
Well-
Should be a supermajority.
Joyce to the rescue. Thank you. Well, we can, I would recommend that we add this to the list. If you all want to take a look at this over the next couple of weeks and bring it back, we can do that. Otherwise, we can add it to the list for consideration for a management for a...
I think it would be better as a policy or an ordinance rather than being in the charter.
I tend to agree with you, particularly now that when you read it and there are options with the governor that...
Correct.
Yeah.
Although we had difficulty with the...
And the fact that we have a supermajority requirement, so...
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay, all right.
It can't be done on a whim, no.
Right. Does that work for everybody?
Yep.
Okay, great. That brings us to the end of our discussion items. Geez, we're going to get out of here early tonight. We did not add any under new business. We did not indicate to the public that we were going to discuss any other new business. I think we thought this was going to take longer. I think I'd like to recommend that from this point out, looking at what is left in the charter to review, I don't think there's a lot of hiccups here that we're going to have to take a look at. So it might be a good idea for advertising purposes that we put all the sections on and then take them as we can do them up for the 2 hours that we meet. And if we don't get through, then we'll add them to the next meeting agenda. But I don't know that how long it's going to take to get through some of these, and so I don't want us to be meeting for, like 30 minutes and then be done.
Right.
So is that okay if that's how we do it for the next agenda, that we advertise all remaining sections?
Yeah, that's what, yes.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, that'll work. That way we can just take it as we go along.
So just confirming that'll be 8 through 13.
Yes, 8 through 13. Yeah. And it probably take us maybe 2 meetings to get through this, but just in case it doesn't, I mean, I was reading them and there's some of it's pretty benign, so. Okay.
You're also bringing the morals clause back to the morals clause, you're bringing that back to the next meeting also?
Well, I think we decided that we're going to add that to a management
Okay.
recommendation, that we not want to put that into a charter amendment.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You wanted us to pull the ICMA language?
Yeah, we did, now wait a minute, we did say we wanted to see some language from some ordinances.
For purposes of making a management recommendation.
Yeah. But that can come at the end, I mean, if that's not next week or 2 weeks, that's fine. If that comes at the end, that's okay.
Yeah, I think that's going to take a couple weeks of research to
Yeah,
find some
I
really
think
good
so,
stuff. I mean,
yeah.
we'll pull the ICMA, I mean, that's really easy, but to go through all the cities in the state and the 67 counties is...
We don't do that. Okay. Okay, are there other comments by members of the committee?
No, ma'am.
Is there any comments by our attorney or deputy city manager? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for your attention to all of this heavy lifting, this work. This is good stuff we're doing. I'm grateful for everybody's attention to it.